being overconfident? Am I becoming complacent about complacency?
I think you are.
Oh, he's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy.
Yeah, I've got big ears.
I just want to see anyone piss off.
That's the one, because you literally complete me, and we complete each other.
You've obviously encountered discrimination in your own life by virtue of being Australian. So,
Hey, Manuel Camp was a real pissant. It was very rarely stable.
I don't want to get too gushy, but I might just be saying you complete me, Dean. PNG now stands for Pritchard and Good.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How did I do
insane!
that?
You're insane!
Well, welcome everybody to Corona TV. It is December 15th. I just have to check. It is Tuesday. It is 2020. Yep, it's still 2020. And it is time for Corona TV. This is one of those times when roles are reversed, where my guest today is used to actually being a presenter, a host, a talk show host, and she has to be able to figure out what to do with her hands and her fingers because she is a guest on my show. But it's also another dynamic. I almost feel like, you know, when your family is in the audience, you get a little bit more nervous. You almost feel like you're on display, you're auditioning. So suddenly all eyes are on you, or at least not all eyes, just one set of eyes. So I hope I will do her proud and the streaming community proud today. Mr. Robert Collins is here. Good morning to one and all good people. And Tom Morris says, backpacking with Joseph and Kerry. You're going to hear that hashtag. That hashtag better be trending at some point in time, sooner rather than later. Well, let's get into the show. And as I said to you this week and all of this week, at least until tomorrow, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the TD Foundation's Holiday Cocktail Gala. You can buy tickets. You can actually hang out with some celebrities like John Lovitz, Lisa Loeb, and Brett Favre. I think I pronounced it correctly. A little bit of a, you know what movie that mention is from. So if you want to go ahead and support the families of our fallen heroes and wounded warriors, come and hang out with all the digital media and marketing old timers on Wednesday. And we certainly appreciate any and all of your support. Tom Morris says, love the Fender t-shirt. Well, there's definitely a rock star and a guitar common thread, and you will see that soon enough. And Bob Farnham says, Kerry O'Shea Gorgone rules. Indeed, she does. Mr. Stephen Rubin is watching, and I appreciate the fact that you are watching today. Well, today is National Bill of Rights Day. National Bill of Rights Day. Some people may not know what that is. Some people may have chosen to ignore what that is, but it is National Bill of Rights Day. And it's actually funny for me because I have to tell you, I have not done any political posts on Facebook for a while, not really anything that is even reasonably political. But why do I even bring it up now is because I have been flatlining on 5,000 friends on Facebook. And I've been waiting for at least somebody to unfriend me because I have a bit of a waiting list of people that I really, really want to be friends with, like really and truly. So anyway, yesterday I posted this. President-elect Biden set to deliver his fourth, or is it fifth, victory speech tonight. And thank God one person unfriended me. One person actually did not like this post enough to unfriend me. Well, I appreciate it because I've been able to now friend David Rendell, the giant freak in pink, let's say that one more time, giant freak in pink, and found out, of course, congratulations to him. He just did his first 12-hour race yesterday, 50 miles. The guy is a freak indeed. So one door slams, another one opens. One friend leaves, another one arrives. You know, I've been lucky enough to meet lots of new friends, like my guests this week. Nate yesterday, Kerry today, George tomorrow, and Farah on Thursday. And then, of course, another fantastic community show on Friday with David Meerman Scott, with Mark Schaefer, Kuda Biza, Faith James, and Ewan. Did I say Ewan? Ian Pritchard. Ewan? That sounds like Ewan. But today we're going to focus on Kerry O'Shea Gorgone. She is the Educational Content Director at Marketing Profs and Consigliere at Chris Brogan Media. The last time I saw the word consigliere used in a title was Scott Monty, who was my consigliere at Crayon. So I love the title and I love the role and I love the person behind it, both Scott and Kerry as well. Well, let's do birthdays. Today, just a few people on Facebook, Harley Rubin, Cindy Nelson, and then on LinkedIn, one person, Chris West, previous guest. I always make sure that I highlight our previous guests because you know what? They're very, very important to me. But before we get into the seated soliloquy, there is one more thing that I want to share with you. Another post that I put onto Facebook this week. It happened on Sunday, and I'd like to share it with you.
I'm just gonna show it. I'll get some salad.
My daughter came back from college on Sunday a little bit earlier than was expected. She was meant to be coming back on Friday, and we planned a little surprise and were able to film that and share that. Ironically, that video on Facebook has been seen by an exponentially greater number of people than watch Corona TV. There is no accounting for bad taste, no doubt. Well, let's get on with the show. And today I wanted to talk to you about, well, today I wanted to talk to you about today. I'm going to start off with a cliched phrase. Ready for it? Here goes. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. Today, my gift is to talk with Kerry. Today, my gift is to be able to do another episode of my show. Today, my gift is my health. Today, my gift is my mouth. Today, my gift is my ears, or are my ears. Yesterday, Nate Woodbury validated my commitment to my show and my 2-year all-in commitment, come what may. In fact, he said that 2 years isn't even necessarily a long time at all. It's all relative. I could kick myself for giving up on my original marketing podcast, which I started in 2005. It was called Across the Sound, later became known as Jaffe Juice. Can you imagine where I'd be today if I just stayed the course? Joe Rogan would be trying to hit me up to come on my show as opposed to the other way around. But here's the thing. I can't change the past. I can't change yesterday. I'm not in control of yesterday. I am in control of right here, right now. I am in control of today. I'm somewhat in control of tomorrow, insofar that it will be like today, a continuation of this incredible journey and streaming adventure. I don't know this for a fact. I just know it's true. But in 15 months or the 2-year anniversary of Corona TV, I'll still be going strong. I won't be looking back with regret, lamenting on what might have been, rueing the fact that I gave up on my dream, got distracted by life. I won't make the same mistake again. I also know that on the 2-year anniversary of Corona TV, there will be someone starting out on their journey and wishing they had started 2 years prior. But my message to that person, my message to you, is to start today. Start today, just like Chris and Kerry with their show, just like myself. Do it today. Do it now. You only have today. Today is the only day of your life. Today is the last day of your life. Well, hopefully it isn't, but act like it is. And we'll be cheering for you on the sidelines. We're all part of the same family. So come on in. The water's warm. Together we will be the tide that floats all boats. Today, I hope you're motivated, because I feel motivated. I feel motivated to bring on Kerry O'Shea Gorgone. Let me just tell you just something brief about her. Kerry O'Shea Gorgone is a lawyer, an educator, a writer, and as of 2020, a talk show host, and a pretty good one at that. She's the co-host of the Backpack Show Live with Chris Brogan. When she isn't streaming, she explores people's weird collections and cool hobbies on Punch Out with Katie and Kerry. And if she doesn't have enough time left over, she creates premium training products for marketing profs. So now it's time to bring her onto the show. I hope she's ready to be a guest. Welcome to the show, Kerry.
Hey, so I want you to imagine what it feels like to hear you saying, I've opened up one friend slot. I was so happy because I got to friend, not Kerry.
Why? Are you on my list?
No, we're not Facebook friends.
Oh, well,
What the hell?
I will reach out to you, or you reach out to
Just
me.
drop somebody else. I don't care who it is.
I can drop them. I dropped someone today, and I actually dropped
Do it
someone
alphabetically.
else. I dropped someone called FIR and then CE, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
First, like, what are they? Are they, from some country I've never heard of?
I was very excited, and then I experienced the insult like in real time.
It spelled the word fierce, and then I thought, well, that's great. It's a Facebook account, designed probably to talk about inclusivity or something to do with Me Too. And then I went back and I saw there wasn't a post from like the last 3 years, and I said bye-bye, and they are no longer Facebook friends. So
good. So you're saying there's a spot.
So you're saying there's a chance. I mean, come on.
Today's my day. We only have today.
I will make it my life's work to bring you into my little Facebook cabal of 5,000 of my closest strangers. Except for you, you're not a stranger. But I mean, it's like, it's so funny though, Kerry, because it's so ridiculous that that someone would actually unfriend you for that post of making a little, I don't know, slightly snarky comment about winning but somebody said, you know what, that political Jaffe, I want no part of him. I want no part of him.
I'm sure I've unfriended people for less than they've unfriended me for less.
I know. Well, I mean, listen, I'm sure I've done far worse in my entire life. Well, Kerry O'Shea Gorgone, I asked you in our green room, in our StreamYard room. If I said in our, by the way, there was a typo in my soliloquy. I wrote steaming instead of streaming, which thank God, I caught. Yeah, I know. Thank God I caught that pile of spelling mistake. That's what happens sometimes. How are you?
So good. This is my best day today.
Why is it a good day?
Well, I started off the morning talking with DJ Cumberbund from YouTube. So my kids think I'm really cool. He does these amazing mashups. Talked to a mystery author whose book I'm currently reading. And then talked to two women who are trolling trolls by enabling you to donate to charities like that they would hate. So if somebody hits you with a little sexism, you donate to like a women's organization or something, that kind of thing. I love that. I love
trolling trolls. By the way, this works much better as an overlay than it does as a background. But DJ Cumberbund, you had an action-packed group of guests today. It was amazing. I caught the tail end of the show.
That was fun. It was one of those things that just happened where we'd booked two together, and then I'd got the mystery author to come on. So that was like our 2 slots, but 3 people. And then DJ Cumberbund could do today. And we were like, okay, just throw them in the mix. So some days you end up with 1, some days you end up with 4. And you never know what's going to happen. I
know. Well, I started playing around with this idea of having 9 people and myself 10 at the same time. I started my community shows, and it actually was kind of up. I mean, I did about 2 or 3 of them, and it was a beautiful chaos. is the best way to describe it. But I've actually reduced it now to, like, my Friday shows are now 5 previous guests and myself, because it was too much great content crammed into one small screen. So I feel like, and I like 6 because I feel like it's got to be symmetry on StreamYard. You know, I don't like 3 windows and 2 windows. I want it to be like 6 or 4 or 8 or 9.
Chris Brogan does not share your sentiments. He is aesthetically very messy, and he does not care how many people there are and how they line up. He needs to be on his side, though.
Oh, so he has a side.
Yes, his side of the bed. If I come in and I'm on the other side, he will move it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Which side do you like?
This is the side I'm usually on. I'm usually on the opposite side of where you put me right now. I'm on the other side. Yeah.
I'm going to put you on that. You know, I'm going to put you on that side because that is my guest side, because it allows me to be this small and you to be that big.
Fine, because ladies love to be huge in relation to the guys they're being displayed with. I always sit next to my skinniest friend in pictures. That's how you do.
Well, you get to sit next to Mini Joe today. And Carol Alaloof says, hello, Kerry is a worthwhile Facebook friend.
Right?
Well, you know what
was that? It's like, guess what? I got a new Facebook friend. I had room for just the one, and I picked somebody else.
My life's work is designed to make sure that I rectify my mistake. You know, I always say, you know, in life, kind of, you want to make the good kinds of mistakes.
You're so small, squishing your head, Joseph.
You can. But seriously, you want to make the good kinds of mistakes. The good kinds of mistakes are the ones that you learn from. They're the ones that that you are allowed to grow from. They're not the ones that end up on your permanent record. And certainly there are many, many people who have made the bad kinds of mistakes. So may we continue to make the good kinds of mistakes in our life.
I thought you were like, may we continue the show? And I'm like, sure.
Cheers. I drink to you. Kate says, is it 10 a.m. again? It's 10 a.m. somewhere, right?
Because the Backpack Show goes live at 10 a.m. Eastern, and Kate is always there, which we so love. And Carol too, and Steve very often pops by, and Bob too. So I love this. For me, this is fun.
It is 10 a.m. in Mountain Standard Time. So there's our quote of the day. I squish your head. That is Steve Garfield. That's not my hero the Turk. That is, you know, Kerry the Gorgone that says, I squish your head.
That's my superpower.
So Kerry, you know the show. You know my show. I think you know my show. I think you know that we start off oftentimes with something I call fun facts. I need to create the stingers, the zingers. You have some amazing ones on your show. So this one is a fun fact. That would be my version of it. A terrible one at that. But here's what I learned about you, thanks to Google Docs. Here's the first little bit of information, is that you've got a little bit of Czech in you, or it would appear. And this is actually, can you believe we actually found this photo of you? Not only do you speak a little Czech, I feel like I am a little Czech at the moment. So, you know, can we do some English to Czech translation?
Potrzebuji tlumocznika. I need an interpreter.
How about my hovercraft is full of eels? Now, how about watch the Backpack Show every day from
Oh, no
10
idea. No, you're not that good at it. I could order directions. I could order 2 beers.
Okay, could you order 2 beers for us, please?
Yeah, that's all that means. Like going to a bar, like they'll bring us.
Cerveja. What is beer in Czech?
Pivo.
Pivo.
Dvě pivo, prosím. 2 beers, please.
I loved going to the Czech Republic. It was incredible. We had an amazing time. Isn't if I recall correctly, what's the case? It's Prague, right?
Praha.
So Prague, it's the Bohemian like capital, right? The absinthe and you've never had that, right? You've never had absinthe before.
Yeah.
I mean,
Steve
today
says peace equals 2 beers.
Wait. So you are now. I love it. You are now commenting on my commenters. Let's find
I
it. There
am.
we go. And Manif said this is fun. And let's see what else is going on. People are just having their own. Should we just ignore them and continue with our show?
No, I never ignore the people who come. I think they're the best part.
All right. Well, then let's see what they got to say. No, they're not saying much at the moment, except for a new hashtag, which is I
squish your head.
I squish your head. Here's something else that I found out about you is that you're a genius. I mean, I think we all knew that. We didn't need to be able to find out that you graduated from high school a year early at 17. So tell us about that. Why did you graduate early?
So I went to school on Cape Cod, and there were like 35 kids in the class, like in the grade, and we were tracked by, honors and then like college prep or whatever, and like whatever regular is. And so you're seeing the same like 10 people all the time, 10 or 12 people. And I just thought it was really stifling. So I wanted to graduate early, and they didn't want me to. They're like, "Oh, slow down. You'll regret it later." I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure I won't." So they made me sit down with my dad and a panel. My dad, of course, not my mom, because why would she have an opinion? And a panel of all my teachers and the vice principal and the principal, and they all voted and stuff. And so I had to go and explain why I wanted to do it. And my dad had to say that it was okay that I did it. And then they voted whether or not I was mature enough to graduate a year early. And the only one who voted against me was the typing teacher, which to this day, I was a great typist. I don't know what her problem is. I don't understand why.
Because that is one life skill that you've needed every
day of my life.
To be the greatest receptionist, to be the greatest PA, because that's the power of typing.
I mean, it does help. I'm not going to lie, but should I have let her hold me back for a year because like her opinion was that I should not graduate early? I did lie though. They were like, "Well, maybe you could start at community college." I'm like, "Totally." And then I didn't. Because what are they going to do? Come back and get me? Drag me back?
We had a really interesting conversation in the, I'm going to rename the green room, the pink room, the magenta room, forget about typing skills, about mouse skills, about right-clicking, left-clicking, double-clicking, two-finger clicking. That seems to be the real skill that I feel like we need to be expert producers of a streaming show.
Yes, that's accurate. And if you ever run out of batteries in your wireless mouse, it's very stressful. You have to go running because you can't click a thing. You can't even message your co-host to tell them that you can't click a thing. You have to go and just
I had that. I actually had that on one show where my mouse died, and like the mices now, or the mice, the mouses are you just plug them in now, so no batteries, and it was actually very, very disconcerting because of this. Every time I needed to click it was an awful experience for me.
It's very stressful. I agree, because you're running banners and displaying comments and moving windows around, and you can't do any of that.
And doing things like that, and then doing things like that, and I call it the zombie. It's the zombie look.
Yeah, it would be very stressful if it didn't work. And then if you click something by accident, that's almost as bad. Like sometimes people will comment so quickly that I'll click the wrong one. And I'm like, oh darn! Not like it's ever been anything bad, but it's just not.
I mean, that's never happened in terms of too much, stuff going on at the same time. Let's go back to comments for a second. Chloe says, Kerry is the real Wonder Woman. From what I've heard, I know that to be completely true. And then Steve Garfield seems to be prompting something, and he says, hey, Tom Morris, Kerry got 10 out of 10 on Room Raider for her background. If only I was prepared for that. So I mean, between you and Steve Garfield, I'd like to see two. And you're from Boston, right? Or
yeah, originally, yep.
All right, so two Bostonians walk in, only one emerges. I'd like to see the caged death match between Garfield and Gorgone. Only one Room Raider can emerge. But tell us about. Tell us about Room Raider, and then of course, I don't need to have this in the background. All I have to do is show your room.
Well, let me tell you what would happen with Steve. So if it was like a match where we just have the match and then it's decided, I would win because I will not ever lose because I just refuse to. But if it's like a series of matches, in other words, if Steve can iterate and come back and iterate and come back, then he could give me a run because that's how he got his 10 out of 10 in the first place, was by putting himself out there for Room Raider, which on Twitter is this thing. It says rate my Skype room, but I mean, they rate any type of background, like on webinars, even on news briefings and broadcasts and stuff. And they like criticize it. So if you have a calendar, they'll be like, oh, I see your calendar. Or a little wire monster like happens if you have a lot of computer stuff and we go, just, deduct points for the wires or whatever. They don't like books arranged in order of color. They have like their things. And so they'll talk about things like lighting and whatever, and they can get brutal. So they'll be like, 0 out of 10, you look like a hostage video or something. Like, they're serious. And so I set up my background when I started doing the backpack show with Chris Brogan, so that because I was going to be on video live every day. So I, gave it some thought and like actually made my space a space that I'd want to be in that much time. And that looked okay. And so I did it. And then my friends encouraged me to like tag Room Raider. And I was afraid to. I was like, no, they're going to say something horrible. So I just put it out there on Twitter, and then I like ran away, and they gave me 10 out of 10, and I couldn't believe it.
Your first pass was 10.
Yeah, that's it. I was so excited.
So I'm going to go into voice of God mode. Why don't you show us around your room?
Okay, a little bit's changed because so first of all, I'm a big Johnny Cupcakes fan, so I've got this poster up here that says "Do more of what makes you happy." Because I think it's a great message and I love the brand. He makes designer t-shirts and his story is amazing. JohnnyCupcakes.com. Check it out. I wear a lot of his stuff. I've got my guitar up there. I actually put my guitar up there because of something Chris Brogan and Rob Hatch say, which is to put success in your way. I wanted to practice more. I started lessons 2 years ago. And when I had it in the case, in the closet, I didn't practice. So I put it on the wall, like for myself to make myself practice. And now it's like, help me get a 10 out of 10 Room Raider. So I thought that was funny. I have another guitar too behind me this way. It's in a stand. It's an electric. And then, above the guitar, Chloe from Scotland, Chloe Forbes Kinlan, an amazing Squarespace designer. She's so, so wonderful. She sent me that. That's custom art that makes me and Katie Robert, my Punch Out with Katie and Kerry co-host, makes us like little Funko Pops because I have a lot of Funko Pops. And she's so lovely. So I put that where I would see it every day. Below the guitar is a autographed picture of Triple H, who is my favorite wrestler and pretend boyfriend, because we had someone on the Backpack Show who works with Linda McMahon, Debbie Saviano, and Stacy Schieflin from over at Women's Leadership Live. And I'm so embarrassed about this, actually. They asked him to send me an autographed photo, and I was so ridiculously excited about it. But also I was like, now he knows he's my pretend boyfriend. Whereas before it was fine because like he didn't know and couldn't care less. But now I'm like, oh my God, now he knows. So it's a little embarrassing. But they sent the same autograph photo to Chris Brogan. So I think there's something, redeeming in that. I don't know how, but it made me laugh. And I've got little guest mementos around. So we'll have people on the show and I keep little pieces from their things. So this Lego thing is from a Lego serious play training that we did. They had us put together our favorite body of water, like in Legos. Turns out when you talk about it and describe the body of water, you're actually talking about how you are in the sack. So that was interesting. I think I said that was a pool. That's like a multi-story pool. And I think I said playful, unconventional, something. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I've got books from different authors we've interviewed. I've got all kinds of cool stuff from guests.
I love the finger gymnastics you're doing.
I'm trying.
It's not like there's synchronized swimming. This is synchronized streaming, right? Where you're like, I don't know. You've done a very good job. That's my outstanding student award from law school because I was first in my class. So I keep that there to just remind me to keep at it and work hard every day. Kerry, I actually think there's a very interesting takeaway from this, which is we're living in a time now of so much Zoom fatigue and isolation. Yes, you and I are together. We're 4 feet apart virtually. You've had the ability to meet incredible people every single day. I get a chance to meet incredible people every day. So socially, we're connected with one another, but people are really struggling to, I think, break out or break through or have something to say. And I think your your incredibly curated background, it's fascinating. It's like it's a mosaic, it's a tapestry. So much thought has gone into it, but it's a conversation starter. I mean, we had Scott Monty on the show on Friday, and he, did this incredible bow tie bit where he tied 5 different bow ties for all the different guests. And I think we have to really, really work hard to be part of someone's conversation today. Virtual backgrounds are so like, I guess, March 2020, but room raider backgrounds that are real, authentic, curated, filled with Easter eggs, that is definitely where the puck is right now.
Yep. I love talking about the people we've had on. I mean, how they've changed me and what I learned from them. That's why I keep reminders from the different people we've had on, the books that they've written, things that they've sent me. For me, it's a little walk down memory lane when I look at it.
It's beautiful. It's a fantastic, I think, the idea that your guests stay with you. For me, they stay with me in terms of they live inside my heart. Ideas that continue to build, red threads, thanks to Tamsin Webster, that continue to sometimes wind up or unravel. But I love the mementos on your side as well.
Changing all the time. I'd like you to know my teenage son snuck in and stuck that wreath on my shelf. So he was feeling like in the holiday spirit. And so we used to live in Orlando for about 8 years, and we have a lot of Disney things. And so this is a Disney wreath right there with Mickey and Minnie that it's fabric because children break things. So it's been just like kicking around since then. And he put it in because he was feeling very Christmassy. And I wanted to encourage that. It's been a kind of a crap year for them, So the fact that they're excited at all made me happy.
I wonder if there are ways and by the way, Robert says this is better synchronized than an Esther Williams swim production.
That is a deep cut.
You must be referring to her room only. I mean, I'm just clicking mices. But Kerry, you bring up something, you said just at the end there, which I think is another really key insight. Our kids have been through, I mean, it's hard not to get emotional just to think about what they've been through. We don't even know what the implications are going to be. And I think anything we can do to get them to act a little crazy, a little, just show that life inside them that's been suppressed and oppressed this year is a beautiful thing. I mean, I wish my kids would play with the show or do whatever they wanted to, anything just to feel connected to one another or more connected.
I have 2. And so my younger, he's very high functioning on the autism spectrum, and he's like living his best life with virtual school and stuff, like loves it. I don't think he would want to go. I mean, he might want to go back, but I mean, he's doing fine. He loves it. My older is much more extroverted. I mean, they're both extroverted, I guess, but he's more social in the kind of typical sense. And so for him, the isolation it's difficult. I can see that it weighs on him. I mean, we live like dogs now. Like we eat at home, we go for walks, come back home. That's it. That's what we do. For him, that's hard.
Wow. We live, it's so ironic, right? We live like dogs and our dogs live like gods because they like hit the jackpot. Now, if we even have to leave the house for an hour, we actually like don't know what to do with our dog right now because it's like, will he be okay? I mean, you've seen how he wants to be a part of everything from that video. Will he actually know what to do with himself for 1 hour away from us? Because every day he hits the dog god jackpot by just being around us all the time.
Well, and it's so relational. Time is so relational that to them it's like, but it's always been like this. They've always been home all the time. They've probably forgotten that you didn't used to be home all the time. So yeah, I mean, it feels like forever, which is why I also know that for my kids, this year feels like a decade. So I feel awful about it, really.
Yeah, there is Steve Garfield has definitely jumped onto the we live like dogs now.
You do.
ain't that the truth? And we're not talking about the good kind as well.
You eat, go for walks, and that's it in the house. I mean, that's about the size of it,
And Tom says we live like dogs now, and my cat is irked. So you know what? I'm a dog person as well. Sorry, Tom.
Cat, you don't take a cat for a walk, though.
You can't
You
do
don't.
much with a cat, but
No.
but they do like to purr, I guess. Anything
And
else?
if they're in that mood, in my experience, cats like to disrupt your live video show. What I've seen them do.
Doesn't Mr. Brogan have a cat in particular that likes to do that?
Well, the cat likes to jump up on him sometimes while he's doing the show, and then he doesn't like throw the cat off because then it will start crying. So he'll just leave it, but it'll turn around and put its butt right to the camera. Butt right there. That's great.
So Eric just did this, by the way. This was what I was going to say, which is I love Kerry. Eric Tung said I love Kerry, but he then posted this, and so that's what came up. So I had the little double, but it worked out fine.
Oh, because the clicking. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the next sentence could have been like, "Not she sucks," and then you would have been embarrassed.
Yeah, don't do that, Eric. So you keep mentioning this show. What is the show that you speak of? This backpack show. Why don't you take us back to the beginning, which is your connection? Chris starts. I call Chris a streamy. He was on my show. We're both doing the streaming thing, and then I still think that I might have been it might have been me on the show. I feel like it was one of the first times that you were on the show as well. If it wasn't the first, it was one of the first, because I remember not expecting you to be on and loving this whole interaction and interplay. You guys like slices of bread, me, the meat in the middle. Sometimes I was a slice of bread.
Interesting.
Huh?
So this place just got interesting. It's like Corona TV after dark.
I hate being referred to as a piece of meat, but whatever. But
You don't.
Kerry,
It's a lie.
Tell us that story exactly. Tell us the story of how you came to this streaming adventure.
Kicking and screaming. So
Good on.
I used to watch Chris's show. I've done podcasts for years, by the way, audio podcasts since like 2005. I've been doing different audio podcasts, but I never wanted to do video because, you have to get dressed and stuff, like edit and things like that. And I didn't want to do it. So I didn't, even though Chris urged for years, many people, not just me, everyone should do video. And so he started a live video show in March called Point of Contact. And it was just him. He'd like walk over to his desk and sit down and do like 10 minutes of whatever he felt like talking about. And people would turn up and comment, and it was so much fun. Then he switched it over. I forget when, but he switched it over at some point to catch up. So he would bring in somebody that he knew to catch up with and just have a conversation. And I knew almost all of those people too, because we're in the same circles. We've gone to the same events for years and things. So I would turn up and in the comments be like, "Oh, that's Steve Garfield from stevegarfield.com." And I would put links and I would put fun facts and all this stuff. And so I kind of became like Kerry in the comments for that. Then he transitioned it to backpack. And the idea behind the backpack is, everything is transitioning right now. Everything's kind of a mess, and you can't really build anything solid because we don't have solid ground. Like, you can only take with you what you can fit in a backpack. So how do you succeed? What's the one thing you need in your backpack to succeed? And that's what he made the show. And he asked me if I would help him, like, officially, like he actually brought me on as consigliere and showrunner to help him run that. And I thought I'd be like backstage pushing buttons and stuff, like, so I still wouldn't have to like get dressed and put on makeup and stuff. And he just yanked me out front. So with, I want to say it was with John Jantsch and Katie Robert was the first time. And he just like, boom, put me out front. He had asked me at different times to co-host with him, but not like a formal thing. It was like, "Hey, come join me. I'm going to talk to Goldie Chan, and her, and I think it would be fun." And I'd be like, okay, whether I was ready or not, I would just kind of go. And that might've been what happened with you too, is that he had me just kind of drag me in. But then after I went on with Katie and John, it was just, that's it. I was on every day. And so I had to make sure I had my makeup on like by 8:40 a.m. my time, because I was going on. So that's what happened.
There are two questions that I want to ask you, or follow-ups. The first is relating to what you said about not feeling or being let's say, a camera ready, or feeling more comfortable in audio versus video. And to talk a little bit about, many people have had to face that reality of being on camera now, whether they like it or not. talk about breaking out of a comfort zone or dealing with and whether it's an insecurity or a fear or just something that makes you uncomfortable, and how you've emerged from that transition or going through that moment.
It's not how I look that bothers me. I mean, whatever, like everybody else, I've got things I would change. That's not why I didn't want to do video. I am very expressive. I am very expressive. I have no poker face whatsoever. If I am annoyed or disgusted or incredulous or, filled with joy, you are going to see it on my face. And I cannot hide it. And so my fear was that with so many varied guests, I might make a face, like not everything they say, is going to like fill me with joy. So what if I make a bad face at the wrong time and like insult somebody? And then I was like, screw it. So that's where we are today. I was like, it is what it is. And at least they know my reactions are honest.
Well,
if I'm filled with joy, it's honest.
Carol says fantastic facial expressions. Deb says camera ready takes a bit of time. So not just about comfort zone.
A good point.
I think that's an interesting point, Deb, and I think this is the idea. It's
not for Chris.
Well, what does Chris have? Well, Chris isn't on the show today. You
Chris
can say whatever the hell you want.
Takes some water, and slicks his hair back, and he's ready. That's the amount of prep.
You definitely have amazing chemistry with him. Chloe says your facial expressions are amazing, and we're here for all of them. I do want to just reiterate that point. I think it's such an important one that for you it was more like body language. It was more about not giving away something that you would have gotten away with. Shall we say?
Like on audio, if somebody says something like, "Well, at the end of the day," and you go, "Ugh," like they don't.
Bingo.
You're muted, they don't hear you. If you make a face, they don't see you. But now, if you're talking face to face with someone, you have to think about that. They're going to see that. I mean, they would with me. I'm just saying.
Now, another thing that you said, the other thing that I just picked up on was, and I was about to start typing it as a banner, but the hashtag Kerry in the comments, in a way, I mean, wow, there's so many places I can go with this. The first is, it takes me back actually in the best possible way to the beginning of social media and blogs, where people could break into or get noticed by a prominent blogger or creator by commenting and by actually being consistent and dependable and establishing that presence. And in a way, you almost created this little sub-brand, which is Kerry in the comments, but then somehow you morphed into a co-host, a very, very good one at that. I think there's another interesting lesson there, which is the beauty of serendipity as show hosts, as you and I both are, where something will happen or someone will say something that you just didn't expect. You'll be like, hey, wait a second, let's do that. Let's make that happen. Let's incorporate that into the show. And I think in a way, Chris did not set out to have a co-host. And I think it's a beautiful lesson for people in the space, which is be open to the world, universe, possibilities, and then seize them when they present themselves.
So many things like that have happened. So now I'm on the logo for the show, which I'm so excited about. Like I'm on the little tag on the backpack, and I love it. But you're right. He didn't set out to have a co-host. He hasn't done that a lot, and I felt really excited about getting to do more things with him just because I love him. So, and we have the best time. Really. So when he dragged me out front, I mean, we had a great time. I say drag because for real, he didn't ask me first. It was like, boom, and you're here. But we've done a lot of things, after having experiences on the show. Like Steve Garfield actually was the one who said, you should think about booking more than one guest per show. That way, if one's a dud, you always have another one or whatever. And so we did it. And now, of course, that's twice the work, right? For booking and logistics and whatever. But it really has made a difference. So if somebody drops out at the last second, you're not totally, lost. And like he said, if somebody's not maybe got the energy you need, you got somebody else right there. Almost always, though, it just exponentially improves the show because you've got two really thought-provoking, fun, interesting guests. And the sum of them is it's just greater than the parts. It's like you go in different directions. You find the common thread. We call it the alchemy. you find the common threads between them, and makes alchemy. Like we learn more lessons together based on what kind of common things emerge from those guests.
There's another point as well. I mean, if you just look at your guests today from clearly different backgrounds, and it's just a testament to, I think, what you guys have done. You really have walked your talk. You've created a celebration of diversity. It's not just of backgrounds or gender or race or country of origin. It's perspective, it's opinions. The Backpack Show is a tapestry of color, of emotion, of context, and of sheer beauty. And I think it's not by accident that you create that alchemy, because it's the weird interaction sometimes between two people who might not have met IRL, right? And now suddenly, because of you guys, you've created this melting pot, and the connections and the insights and the conversation is, I'm sure, always unexpected.
My favorite. Yeah, I loved it. And what we like to try to do is pair somebody that has, say, a big platform of their own with somebody who's just starting out, if we can. And then, that way you get more eyeballs on the other person's work, which is important and valuable, but it doesn't maybe get the attention it deserves for like whatever reason. So when we had Sir Mix-a-Lot on the show, that Baby Got Back guy, we paired him with someone who, Genevieve Bien-Ami, who is starting, she's got a new organization called The Other Boston. And it was like when socialization was allowed, was an events calendar for the Black community in Boston, because like 25% of the people in Boston are Black, and you would never know from the events. There's not a lot of, like you could walk around the city and never know it based on the events that they have. So she created an events calendar for the Black community. She also has pride t-shirts for neighborhoods that are traditionally, historically Black, that sometimes the city would leave off the maps. And so they're like Jamaica Plain and Dorchester. And if you're from Boston, like, the history of those neighborhoods. And so they're pride t-shirts for living in those neighborhoods. And we thought that was so important. So we brought her on with Sir Mix-a-Lot. And that means everything to me to have that chance. And the fact that Chris is so willing to share his platform, which he's built over, it's taken him decades to build the supportive community he's built. And so he's giving it to people who are doing important work that deserve more attention. And I love the chance to go looking for those people. And I make an effort to bring BIPOC guests, so people of color, LGBTQ, just different types of people, like you were saying. I thought one day, hey, I want to get a chocolatier. I wonder what that's about. But I didn't just grab any chocolatier, like whoever has the best SEO is who you're going to find first. I was like, I want a Black chocolatier. Or I want to find a person of color. I want to find somebody who's not, already benefiting from a lot of privilege. Like I want to bring some people on who could use the exposure, but also are examples of how to overcome obstacles to achieve success, because they've had more than most.
Well, that's why the voice that comes out of the backpack, your particular backpack, the Backpack Show, is a much needed voice right now. And but it's a very authentic voice, and I was actually talking to someone today, which is, you actually, if you want to make a difference and make a change, you actually have to try hard. You actually have to make an effort. You actually have to go out and say, I'm looking for an African American or a chocolatier, or today you had who was it that said, let me find it again. It was is it Maddie?
Maddie, yep.
And I forget. And she said I'm a queer Black woman, or I forget, or is she a poet, or what was her?
Well, so she works with companies to create a more inclusive environment. Like that's what she wants to do. That's her consulting work. But she is also one of the co-founders of Rage to Rainbows, which, if you got haters online, helps connect you with charities to donate to that those people will hate. So because she's been subjected to some severe harassment in her life, death threats and everything, just for saying things like, hey, maybe don't be racist. Maybe don't be sexist. Maybe don't discriminate against people because they're queer. Like maybe stop that, and that would be good. And then people will send her death threats. She's had people go to her house and terrorize her. It's horrific. But so what she's done with Emily Weltman, her co-founder, is to show the stark contrast between the experience that Emily's had. Emily's had experience with sexism and things like that. And but it gets addressed much more quickly. She reports something, it's taken care of. Whereas Maddie will be harassed as a queer Black woman, she says, and it will just be allowed to continue.
And I think it's, those are the layers that you go out overtly, explicitly to peel back or to uncover or just do that extra work. And I guess that's my point, which is, you've got to try harder. You've got to make the effort. You've got to be able to go and say, you know what? Sure, everyone's interesting. In fact, I was looking at this comment from Steve. He said, it seems like Joseph is interested in all his guests. Well, you know what? As opposed to what? How could you do the show? How could you, Kerry, do what you do? How could I do what I do if you weren't genuinely interested, if you didn't really, really want to commit yourself to learning and telling or allowing someone else to tell their story? It just seems like you'd be dialing it in otherwise.
I'm naturally a very curious person to begin with. And so I think that's necessary and helpful when booking a show. But when it becomes a 2 guest a day morning show, it's vital. Like, you've got to have questions about life and seek out people who can help you answer them, because otherwise you're never going to have anybody on the show. We could have very easily racked up views upon views upon views, inviting back all our marketing friends from our extensive business network and talking about businessy things. We wanted to go further. We wanted to dig deeper. We wanted to expose ourselves to new ideas and do the same for other people. That's what the Backpack Show is about.
I want to make sure that we get that we have a few minutes to talk about your podcast. But before we do, just to kind of close for now the conversation on the Backpack Show, I wonder, and I was thinking about this, what are some of the we've waxed lyrical about streaming, and why shouldn't we? Because it's been just a joy in our lives. What's one of the things that kind of, not a regret, but what's one of the things that kind of irks you, or something that you kind of wish were different about what you do and how you do it?
The only thing is, I've had people with great stories, amazing backgrounds, and lessons to share, and the technology gets in their way. Not StreamYard. StreamYard's dynamite, but like at their house, they will be like on a phone with no microphone or something, and there'll be a terrible echo, just like horrible sound, horrible lighting. And you can try all you want to tweak it, but if they don't have like some basic things in place, like a microphone or a headset or something, it's going to be rough. Like, people are going to have to struggle to get the value out of that guest. And I really hate that. I wish everyone had like a basic setup. Like, how people talk about universal basic income, like you needed some little amount of income everybody needs. Like, right now, everybody needs a basic microphone and some headphones. Like, everybody just needs that, and a decent internet connection. You need those things.
I agree. This is you heard it here first, everyone. that there are certain things that should be a right to every single citizen of this world. One is broadband, and 2 is a basic guest streaming setup.
I mean, think about it. You're trying to participate. Kids are trying to do online school.
Yes.
It would help them with their online school. People can't participate in the economy without being able to work remotely right now, depending on your job. So these things are important. And for me as a show host, it's like, I want to spotlight people. I want to celebrate their success. If you can't get past the noise their microphone is making, it's impossible.
I want you to write to your state representative or your senator and say that Kerry and Joe say a basic microphone. Look, it doesn't have to be the Yeti. That's fine. But you can at least, I mean, you've got a pretty serious one there as well.
That's a Rode Podcaster. Yep. This is probably the best USB mic you can get, the Rode Podcaster mic. So it plugs in USB style. I don't need to do any, I have like other kinds of mics. I have XLR mics with breakout boxes and all the things, but this is much easier. So this is the best kind of top of the line, and it's like $200.
Yeah, I didn't even know half the words you said there, because you clearly know what you're doing, and I'm
kind of microphone that a real sound person who does like music would have an XLR microphone. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So before we move on, there are 2. I think this is this your next show or an upcoming
That's
show?
Thursday's show. Yep. Thursday show. We have this Charmaine McGuffey she's an amazing law enforcement officer. She's been in law enforcement for years and years, and she's been decorated and everything. So she found herself subject to some pretty serious harassment and discrimination in the sheriff's office in Hamilton County, Ohio, because she was outed as a lesbian, and they would just treat her differently. They would make her uncomfortable. They created a pretty hostile work environment, and eventually the sheriff fired her, like trumped up some stuff and fired her. And so in the next election, she ran against him for sheriff and won. And so now she's the sheriff, and she's the first female sheriff, the first LGBTQ person to be sheriff in that county. She's making history, and it was all because she wasn't about to just take that.
All right. So there is a call to action for people that want to actually, if you haven't watched the show yet and you want to, this Thursday, but let's just go finally back in time. One episode in particular that really meant a lot to you was this one. So why don't you tell us quickly about it?
Oh, there's a funny story there. So one day Chris got an adult film star to come on the show, and I said, fine, I'm going to get a nun. And I didn't do it for the same show, but I did. I went out and found a nun on Twitter, @nunblogger on Twitter. And her name is Sister Anne Flanagan. She's with the Daughters of St. Paul. And they're, I don't know if nuns have a charter, but like this, this order of nuns, they're known as the media nuns. And so since even the 70s, their objective has been to use mass media to help spread the word of God. And so they, at the time, that was like, 8 tracks of like radio and TV and normal, whatever, traditional media. So now it means a lot more. They're on Twitter, they have blogs, they do that stuff. So we had her on, and she was just so inspirational. She talked about their music, their choir, raising money, doing good works, and the challenges of cooking for 80 nuns, like with just donated food. She's just this amazing person who seeks out positivity and shares it with others. And she lifts people up. And so that was one of my favorite episodes. And it all was this banter that Chris and I have back and forth, like, fine, you're going to book a porn star, I'm going to go get a nun. And this amazing thing happened from it. And so you can support the Daughters of St. Paul. The sisters there have a donate link, but they're amazing. They're doing such great work over there. And Sister Anne in particular is just a really amazing person. So,
and I put that link as well in the comments. All right.
They had a challenge this year, Joseph, because they normally do a Christmas concert and like a holiday event and make money that way. And they couldn't do it in person this year. They had to do it via Zoom. And for them, it was a first. And you know what? It was amazing. So anyway, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I mean, listen, if you don't love your guests, then, and I mean, if there's been a common thread here, which is don't dial it in, you got to be all in. Don't dial it in. You got to be all in. Well, the final thing we'll just chat about is just, when you're not streaming, you are podcasting. Talk a little bit about your podcast, Punch Out. And specifically, I think there is a final important idea behind it, which is, as you say, not less about work-life balance, but about boundaries.
It's about boundaries. So I was doing a podcast. I still do the Marketing Smarts podcast, where I interview marketers about marketing things. And every once in a while, something will come up that's so interesting about something they do in their personal life. And I really want to go down that rabbit hole, but I can't because the show is about marketing and we talk about marketing. So I thought, man, I really want to have a podcast where we can talk about that stuff. And so Katie Robert and I, she's the CEO over at Trust Insights, we got together and decided to create what we call the muffin top of podcasts, like where we just talk about the fun stuff, kind of like the same people you would see speaking at a major marketing event, but this is the stuff they talk about like after it's over and they just go to get a beer or something. They'll talk about their hobbies. They'll talk about their side hustles, the weird collections that they have at home. Like there's some amazing things. And the point of it really is to show that your off hours are just as important as your on hours to success. There's people that are like, no days off, hustle, all work all the time. It's unhealthy and it's untrue. So here are people like, we'll talk to people like Ann Handley, Chris Brogan, Mark Schaefer, Andy Crestodina, like people you'll hear, David Meerman Scott, keynoting at marketing events. And a lot of people do consider them like a template for career success. Well, they have rich and very interesting lives outside of work. That's what fuels their creativity. You need that in your life. So to us, that's what it was. Like we need to encourage people to view those hours as valuable and set some boundaries. Like nobody's going to thank you for setting boundaries. You just have to do it anyway and say, hey, I'm going to dance lessons or guitar lessons or sculpting class or whatever your thing is. I'm going to do that from like 2 to 3:30 on Thursdays. And that's how it is. And you're going to have to defend that boundary day in, day out, week after week, month after month. But you know what? Do it because it's important.
So, Kerry, your quote of the show is connected to that subject. Don't confuse having a career with having a life.
Yeah.
Any idea who said that?
No, but I thought the quote of the day was "I'm squishing your head."
That is the quote of the year. Never mind. That's much more significant than this one. Although I would say the person that said this was appropriately Hillary Clinton, former U.S. Secretary of State. And I think important in terms of, and I love that idea, boundaries as opposed, to this idea of balance. Because, I mean, you know this. I mean, you spend Saturdays and Sundays working on the Backpack Show. I spend Saturdays and Sundays working on Corona TV. But still, you can still operate within that framework as long as they are clear, I suppose.
But for me, it is my side hustle. So I have a job, and the Backpack Show is something that fills me up spiritually, creatively. I need to do it. I love to do it. So spending my weekend hours on that for me is filling up that basket, if you will.
Right, and it never feels like work when truly your heart is in it, and when you're committed, and when you're quite frankly all in. So, Kerry, before we go, you know in advance what the Corona question is. You gave me such a brilliant answer before. But this week's Corona question is: how have you kept physically and or mentally fit during 2020?
And I said I just didn't. So physically, at first, I used to go to the gym every day. And then we ended up on lockdown, and I was like, oh, it's just a couple of weeks. No big deal to miss the gym for a couple of weeks. And then it was a month, and then it was 2 months, and it was 3 months. I started trying at-home workouts. Like Lucy Wyndham Reed is fantastic for at-home workouts, and they're great. But the problem is the space at home. Like my kids are always at home, and they were like, it was not conducive. So at the best, I go for walks, and it's not just the exercise, it's the air that helps me. But as far as like staying fit, I'm going to have to start all over again and get my muscles back when this is over, because I just haven't been able to do it.
Well, the one good thing about going on a walk is that you can take, I'm sure, the Backpack Show with you in audio format, Corona TV with you if you choose to. It's up to you. Robert Collins says, I squished your head, always a quote worth having on deck. And Deb Lee says, all work all the time equals burnout. Well, we are not going to burn out today. We are going to move on over to the Zoom after show, where you can hang out with the incredible Kerry O'Shea Gorgone and me and our regulars as well. So
Joe's newest Facebook friend.
Well, you are my new Facebook friend as soon as I boot someone out. Give me 5 minutes after the Zoom after show. Okay. Boots.ly/Corona TV after show.
Our watches.
Kerry O'Shea Gorgone, let me tell you something. You are the muffin top of streaming. I love that idea. That is what we all need to aspire to do, is to just be the fun stuff, the important stuff, the meaningful stuff, the valuable stuff, the stuff on top. Thank you for allowing me to be the host and you to be the guest. I hope this wasn't too awkward on your fingers and your ability to not click everywhere. Oh, there you go.
Using my capo.
Oh, capo to the rescue. You know how the show ends. It ends with your vote of approval from Mr. Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. I'll be back tomorrow. See you guys, some of you, in the Zoom after show. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at CoronaTV.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.